After being reborn, I didn't acknowledge my wealthy biological parents. I wished them to love and care for the fake daughter of the family. Instead, I became the beloved child of my adoptive parents. Many years later, my biological parents came to my door begging. I thought, since they dote on the fake daughter, then I'll dote on my adoptive parents. Later, both my biological mother and adoptive mother were kidnapped. I said, I'm sorry, Auntie, I have to save my mom first. After being killed by the fake daughter and her family, I was reborn. I went back to the time when I hadn't recognized my biological parents yet. Looking at my adoptive parents who loved and cared for me in front of me, I couldn't help but feel my eyes redden. All the happiness in my previous life ended when I was 4 years old. My mother stroked her belly and gently asked me, Susan, would it be nice if Mom gave birth to a little brother or sister for you to play with? Hearing the words that were exactly the same as in my previous life, tears streamed down my face. My mother held me in her arms. Baby, why are you crying? Don't you want a little brother or sister? I quickly shook my head. I do want them. I want a little brother and a little sister. My father also asked beside me. Then what's the reason? Are you mad at Dad for not buying you ice cream? Upon hearing this, I nodded along. I loved eating ice cream when I was a child. But I often had a stomachache because of it, so they always restricted me from eating too much. At this moment, they didn't suspect anything and just laughed at me for being gluttonous. Ice cream is too cold. It's not good to eat too much. How about we just eat half a box? Okay, then Susan, you stay home and watch cartoons obediently. Your mom and I will go out for a while and bring you back ice cream. I knew they were going to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. In my previous life, I waited at home obediently, but I never waited for my parents to come back. In a car accident, I lost my closest people. After my parents died, I learned from my relatives that I wasn't their biological child. I was just an abandoned baby that my parents picked up from the trash can. I almost froze to death on a snowy day. Therefore, no relatives were willing to adopt me, and I was sent to an orphanage. 12 years later, I was recognized back by my biological parents, the Smith family. But by that time, there was already a pampered fake daughter in the family. Sarah was born on a snowy day, and it just so happened that I almost died on that snowy day. The parents, elder brother, and younger brother of the Smith family all protected her, for fear that she would be sad because of my appearance. Thinking of this, I quickly stopped my parents. Mom, can you go tomorrow? I want you to play jigsaw puzzles with me. I, who had always been well-behaved and sensible, suddenly became unreasonable and refused to let them go out no matter what. My parents also didn't want me to feel neglected just because they were having a second child, so they stayed. In this life, my parents are both alive, and I don't want to go back to the Smith family either. Didn't they say that Sarah is innocent and kind? Then I hope their family can love and care for each other. At this time, I didn't know my own background. I grew up healthily and happily like an ordinary child. My mother is a high school Chinese teacher, and my father is a university history teacher. If I don't study hard, I'm kind of betraying my teachers and ancestors. In my previous life, Sarah had excellent grades, but I didn't receive much good education. The Smith family couple often compared her with me. In order to get their recognition, I studied hard. When I showed them my excellent report card, the parents of the Smith family just had an indifferent expression. Charles also mocked me to the fullest. What's the use of your efforts? You're just a wild girl. You'll never be as good as my sister in this life. His own grades were at the bottom of the class, but he always used Sarah to suppress me. On the day of the college entrance examination, Sarah bribed someone to kidnap me on the way. I was lucky enough to escape, but I also missed the first exam. I told the Smith couple that the mastermind was Sarah, but they accused me. Don't wrongly accuse Sarah without evidence. I think you're deliberately trying to affect her mood for the exam. Later, the police caught the person who kidnapped me, but the other party insisted that he was the mastermind. As for how I knew it was Sarah who did it, of course, she admitted it herself. How could she not show off to me? The Smith family has 2 sons, the eldest son Charles and the second son Charles. The eldest brother, Charles, is a recognized God's favored one and a role model for all the children of noble families to learn from. The people of the Smith family dote on Sarah to the fullest, but Charles is the undisputed heir. He is polite and gentle to others, but I always feel that I can't see through him. Although he dotes on Sarah, he has always been gentle to me and won't deliberately make things difficult for me. At least he's not like Charles, who would lead people to bully me at school. Charles is my biological younger brother, but he has never shown me the slightest respect. I suspect he has a mental disorder. I'm not scolding him, I'm stating a fact. Charles goes crazy when he beats people, as if he's lost his mind. He's manic, furious, and out of control. He's like a mad dog raised by Sarah. As soon as Sarah cries and says that I'm bullying her, Charles will unite with a group of his cronies to take revenge for her, locking me in the toilet, putting dead mice in my desk, throwing my school bag into the sink. These are all routine operations. I also had to endure their exclusion and beatings. Then Sarah would, kindly, plead for me. But is Charles really just trying to avenge his dear sister? Not really. I once told the Smith couple about Charles's rascality, and they said they would definitely give me an explanation. But once Charles said the reason, I'm bullying Sarah, it was me who got punished again. In this life, I have a new younger brother, Lucas. The life that didn't have a chance to be born in my previous life. My younger brother Lucas and I love and hate each other like normal siblings. Although I would beat him up, at least I wouldn't kill him. Although he always tricks me, at least he has some bottom line. Because I was reborn, I've had the maturity and reason that my peers don't have since I was a child. I convinced my parents to buy stocks and real estate. At first, they didn't believe my nonsense. After missing 2 opportunities to make money, they listened to my nonsense with some doubts, and sure enough, they made money. There are many economics books in my room, and my parents just think I'm a natural business prodigy. That money later became my startup capital. My parents both wonder how they, 2 teachers, raised a businessperson like me, although I don't want to admit it.
When I worked in the Smith family group, I did learn a lot from Mr. Smith. At that time, Sarah majored in an art-related field. After graduating, she bravely entered the entertainment industry and didn't have time to care about me for the moment. I took the opportunity to enhance my strength. By then, I no longer had any hopes for the Smith family couple, and I wouldn't be sad anymore because of their partiality, since I couldn't get their family affection. I would make use of the resources of the Smith family. I followed Mr. Smith and my eldest brother, improving my business capabilities, expanding my network, and accumulating resources. Even if I couldn't stay in the Smith family in the future, I could still live well elsewhere, but they still wouldn't let me go. In a kidnapping incident, Sarah and I were both kidnapped at the same time. They all chose to save Sarah and let me fall off a cliff and die. That kidnapping was definitely premeditated. But I'm sure that Sarah definitely couldn't have done it on her own. At least she couldn't have done it alone. At that time, the greatest harm she could do to me was to stimulate me with the love of her family or say some sarcastic words in front of the media. She couldn't do anything else. Plus, I was on guard against her, and she couldn't hurt me anymore. So, there must be something I overlooked. I entered the #1 middle school of the city in high school, while Sarah was in a noble school. In the second year of high school, the siblings Sarah and Charles were exposed for the scandal of bullying their classmates. In my previous life, I wasn't the only one they bullied. Sarah wanted to maintain her image as a beautiful and kind-hearted young lady. She was only responsible for pretending to be the one being bullied, and Charles would lead people to take revenge for her. Kathy was the top student in her grade in the noble school, a girl from a poor family. With a delicate appearance and a gentle personality, she was a special student and had her tuition waived. Kathy had a clear goal for going to the noble school. Her mother was seriously ill. The top student in each grade of the noble school could get a scholarship of $100,000 every year, not to mention the prizes from other competitions. If she could become the top scorer in the city for the school in the college entrance examination, the school would give her an additional reward. She had a pure and innocent appearance, and she was truly self-reliant, earning money with her own ability to treat her mother's illness. Sarah hated anyone who stole her limelight. Kathy was gentle and timid, afraid of causing trouble, and didn't dare to say anything when she was bullied. In my previous life, I couldn't help myself, but this time I could help her. The weak aroused people's sympathy, and excellent people can attract attention, and Kathy had both of these qualities. Countless netizens spoke up for her, and the education department was also paying attention to this matter. In the end, Charles was expelled. The Smith family pushed all the blame onto him. Netizens also criticized him. Didn't he like his sister the most? Then let him taste the taste of partiality and injustice. In my previous life, Sarah had a puppy love and went to a hotel with someone. I don't know how the news got out, and those children from noble families were talking about it. Sarah cried a lot. So the people of the Smith family forced me to take the blame for her. I had no choice but to agree. They had already spread the news that it was me who went to the hotel. Charles said matter-of-factly, "My sister has always been praised by others, unlike you, who have always had a bad reputation. Sacrificing you to protect her is the wisest choice." Now that the same thing has happened to him, Sarah has good grades and is the darling of the family. And Charles is just a playboy who can do nothing but spend money, so it's a wise choice to let him take the blame. The Smith family reached a settlement with Kathy with a large sum of money. After Kathy collected enough money for her mother's medical expenses, she transferred to the #1 middle school of the city. It's ridiculous. Which school wouldn't want to poach a student with such good grades? I remember that in my previous life, she did become the top scorer in the city. Her grades were almost perfect, which was simply incredible, but on the second day after she received the admission notice, she committed suicide at home. When Charles went to college, he could already skillfully help Mr. Smith handle company affairs. The Smith family was engaged in the beauty and clothing business. In my previous life, Charles wanted to acquire a skincare products company because he took a fancy to their beauty formula. Unfortunately, the company didn't want to sell. So he bribed the factory workers and added harmful substances during production. Many users had allergic reactions, and some even got disfigured. They filed complaints one after another. That company got involved in a lawsuit and faced huge compensation, so it had to sell the formula. I contacted the CEO of that company, Jim, in advance. He might not believe me, but he would definitely be careful and on guard. As for his contact information, I actually got it in my previous life. I didn't pay much attention when that company had problems. It was only many years later when he sought revenge on Charles that I learned the truth, but by that time, he didn't have the strength to compete with the Smith family anymore. I originally thought that this Jim would wait patiently for the traitor to act and catch him red-handed, but I didn't expect him to be more ruthless than I thought. He didn't stop it. Instead, he waited until the skincare products were sold and the public made a big fuss about it before he sued the Smith family in court with the evidence. Fortunately, I didn't reveal my identity to him. This person is someone I can't afford to mess with. The reputation of the Smith family group dropped sharply. They not only had to compensate Jim's company for the losses but also had to face the claims from the public. Kathy still kept in touch with her previous classmates. She told me that the Smith family had reduced the pocket money of their several children by a large amount. Logically speaking, no matter how much money the Smith family lost in compensation, they shouldn't have to cut the pocket money of their children. But unfortunately, Sarah and Charles had been too extravagant in their daily lives and spent a lot of unnecessary money. There's no need to say much about Sarah. She had been pampered since she was a child and could get whatever she wanted at home. Charles usually ate, drank, and had fun. This amount of money wasn't a big deal for the Smith family, but he cared about his face and liked to be flattered, so he had a lot of friends. Those people all treated him like a fool with money. Sarah naturally threw a tantrum, so she took her younger brother's share of the pocket money with a clear conscience. The Smith family couple and the eldest brother Charles had no objections to this and were still as partial to her as ever, but Sarah has been in a bad mood recently. Not only can't she spend money freely, but she has also been excluded at school. Since the Smith family had problems, she also had to face criticism. The bullying incident made her image collapse. Without enough money, her little followers were no longer so obedient. When she was in a bad mood, she always had to find someone to vent her anger on. The Smith couple was her support, and of course, she didn't dare to do anything to her eldest brother, so there was only my dear younger brother. In my previous life, when I returned to the Smith family and received the bank card from my parents, I was overjoyed and thought they had given me too much. Later, I learned that it was only 1/10 of what Sarah got. Later, she accused me of stealing her jewelry and selling it for money to avenge her. Charles directly pushed me down the stairs. I got a concussion and stayed in the hospital for a long time, but I didn't receive an apology. Mrs. Smith even wanted to punish me and said she wouldn't transfer money to me anymore. I was penniless. I couldn't even afford to buy things, let alone take the bus. Charles sneered. Serves you right. She really is from the slums. She should change her greedy nature. But this time, I feel sorry for Charles. His situation is much better than mine in my previous life. I just don't know if he has the same mentality as I did. If he is still willing to do it, then forget what I said. The deep affection between siblings. It turns out I'm not worthy. Bless them. After the college entrance examination, I managed to enroll in University J together with Kathy as I had wished. She was the top scorer in the city. I majored in finance just like in my previous life, with years of business experience in my memory. I was quite familiar with these courses. In my previous life, Sarah also attended a prestigious university in the country, while Charles, whose grades were a complete mess, was sent abroad by the Smith family. Now, due to various setbacks, Sarah failed the college entrance examination and chose to study overseas. She has a good foundation and could have entered an undergraduate university if she stayed in the country. However, someone like her is destined not to be able to tolerate mediocrity. On the other hand, Charles didn't manage to go abroad and instead went to a junior college. Although the Smith family is not as prosperous as before, they are still not in a situation where they can't afford the expenses for their 2 children to study abroad. I haven't found out yet what internal conflicts they have. In my freshman year, I founded the company Morning Sun and developed it in the field of the internet. I haven't forgotten to set traps for the Smith family, after all. I'm very familiar with the business of the Smith family group. I have been avoiding meeting the members of the Smith family. It wasn't until my senior year that I met Mr. Smith and Charles at a party. At the age of 22, I finally reunited with the members of the Smith family. When I got home from work, I found Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Charles in my house. As soon as Mrs. Smith saw me, she started crying and tried to hug me, but I dodged. Mom and Dad, who are they? My parents looked embarrassed. Before they could speak, Mrs. Smith interrupted. Child, we are your biological parents. I've finally found you. I had always pretended to know nothing about my background, so of course I had to act the part now. I looked at them with a puzzled expression. My parents asked them to sit down and have a good talk. My mother took me aside and told me the story of how they adopted me more than 20 years ago. After hearing it, I frowned, clearly reluctant to accept it. My parents looked worried. The Smith couple had tears in their eyes. Charles had an expressionless face but kept staring at me. Only Lucas was not affected. Susan, you're really not our biological child. I held my mother's hand. Mom and Dad, we've lived together for so many years. Now that I'm all grown up, why bring up the past? Isn't our family doing well? I spoke in an irritable tone, clearly showing my dissatisfaction with those who had disrupted the harmony of my family. The Smith couple looked embarrassed. My father tried to comfort me. Susan, don't worry, you'll always be our child. No matter what you do, we'll support you. My mother also said, although I didn't give birth to you, I've watched you grow up. You and Lucas are the same in my heart. I looked at the Smith family members sitting across from me. Then how can you be sure they're my family? Who knows if they're liars? My words were quite impolite, but it could be understood for someone who had just been shocked. When the Smith family came to the orphanage to look for me in my previous life, they didn't cry so emotionally like now. It was Sarah who was crying as if she had lost her parents, and Mrs. Smith was comforting her. Charles looked at me with disdain. Is this bumpkin really my sister? Could she be a liar? Seeing that the Smith couple didn't say anything, Charles took the lead to speak. Hello, little sister, I'm your eldest brother. Charles, it's like this. When Mom gave birth in the hospital, you were accidentally swapped with another child. The Smith family also has a daughter named Sarah, who was the child swapped with you back then. A few days ago, we just found out that Sarah isn't our biological daughter, because we saw you at a business party. You look a lot like Mom, and you were born on the same day as Sarah. So we made an investigation. They were lying. The Smith family already knew Sarah wasn't their biological daughter when she was 16. Which was why they found me in the orphanage. This time, since I didn't go to the orphanage, they probably gave up when they couldn't find me. I regained my usual calm and asked, my parents have only had Lucas as their child. That means it wasn't a simple swap. Then where did Sarah come from? Mrs. Smith explained. Sarah is the child of the family's nanny. That is to say, it wasn't a mistake in the wrong adoption. It was a deliberate swap, and she wanted my life. I looked at Charles scrutinizingly. Your explanation just now was deliberately covering up for Sarah. Mrs. Smith quickly defended Sarah. Susan, we're sorry for you all these years, but Sarah is innocent too. Charles was obviously more rational and he changed the subject. Little sister, don't worry, we've already sent that nanny to prison. I will never let anyone who hurt you go unpunished. Was he being so decisive? In my previous life, it took me a great deal of effort to send that woman to prison. The Smith family was afraid that the nanny having a criminal record would affect Sarah's future, but they also didn't want her to have any more connections with Sarah, so they wanted to send her away with money. Later, I called the police. But it also deepened the Smith family's prejudice against me. Don't call me little sister. It's not certain yet, I said unhappily. This was his exclusive way of addressing Sarah. Charles smiled slightly. I was too hasty. If you don't believe it, we can do a paternity test. He always had this kind of gentle and open demeanor, giving people the feeling of a kind big brother. Is Sarah that actress? I suddenly asked. Yes. She's filming on location, so she couldn't come back to see you. But don't worry, Sarah is already married. From now on, you'll be the only daughter in the family, and Mom, Dad, and I will make it up to you." Mrs. Smith held my hand with tears in her eyes. "Good child, come home with Mom." I had mixed feelings. "I don't want to. I'm very happy in the Lincoln family. Are you still angry with us and don't want to recognize Mom?" she persisted. It was Mr. Smith who stopped her. "All right, it's normal for Susan to have a hard time accepting this for now. We should take this slowly." Then he looked at me again. "Susan, no matter what, I'm your biological father. If you don't believe it, we can go for a paternity test first." Under the insistence of my parents, I still went for a paternity test with the Smith family members. They also hoped that I could find my biological parents. The result of the identification was clear. The two families had a meal together, and I kept showing my resistance. The Smith family members once again proposed that I go back and live with them, but I refused. After getting home, I collected the news about the Smith family that had been exposed over the years and showed them to my parents one by one. Since the lawsuit with Jim, the Smith family group has been on a downward trend and has suffered repeated setbacks. They have almost mortgaged all the family assets, except for the Smith family villa and the ancestral house. The Smith family group is on the verge of collapse and urgently needs a large sum of money. I know this so clearly because I have contributed to it, and the other half of the credit of course belongs to the innocent and kind Sarah in their eyes. Helping her husband bring down her natal family's company is indeed something she is capable of doing. In my previous life, I returned to the Smith family early. Sarah had a great deal of hostility towards me and was afraid that I would take everything away from her. The Smith family's indulgence made her feel more at ease. This time, since I didn't go back, she would only be more afraid. The unknown is the most terrifying. Over the past 6 years, she has reminded herself every moment, in case I go back one day, everything she has obtained will be gone. So she married into the Franklin family early. She was willing to give the things of the Smith family to the Franklin family and even betrayed the Smith family group to cling to the Franklin family. Judging from Charles's attitude, they should still be being deceived by Sarah. They must have investigated my identity before coming, sending the nanny to prison on their own initiative, and even not caring about Sarah's future anymore. Isn't that because they are afraid of making me unhappy? My parents don't know about what happened in my previous life, but I need to remind them not to trust the Smith family too much. Mom and Dad, the Smith family secretly searched for their lost daughter 6 years ago, but they said they just found out recently. They were clearly lying to me on purpose. They knew their child was swapped 6 years ago, but they only sent that nanny to prison recently. They also raised the nanny's daughter like a precious pearl and never thought of avenging me at all. It can be seen that they don't care about me at all. My mother was a bit skeptical. Is it really that bad? What do they stand to gain? My father was looking through the materials with a serious expression. If this information is true, the Smith family group is really an unethical enterprise. Susan is also in business, and getting involved with them won't do her any good. Lucas had an advanced way of thinking. "Sis, could it be that they want to sell you to an old man for money?" My mother gave him a glare. "What nonsense are you talking about? That's how it's written in novels. Business marriages for the sake of profit." I smiled faintly. "It's not impossible. You don't have to worry too much. I know what I'm doing. I just wanted to tell you in advance." Mr. Smith and Charles were busy with company matters and only came to see me a few times when they had time. Charles brought several pieces of diamond jewelry that girls like, but I recognized that these were all Sarah's things. They can't afford expensive jewelry now, but buying ordinary ones would seem too insincere. When I first returned to the Smith family in my previous life, Charles gave me a bracelet worth $20,000, besides being amazed. I was filled with gratitude and thought he had spent too much, until I accidentally heard Sarah's sarcastic words. "Brother, now that Susan is back, you gave her such a cheap bracelet. She won't be angry, will she? After all, one of my dresses costs $300,000. Hearing the word cheap, although I was sad, I wasn't angry. After all, it was a token of my elder brother's affection. And then, Charles said, "How is it cheap? For her previous living standards, $20,000 is already a fortune. If we hadn't taken her in, she would still be starving. She should be grateful." In his eyes, I didn't deserve anything better. Mr. Smith brought a share transfer agreement and said he wanted to give me 10% of the shares. I didn't accept any of their things. I might have needed it a few years ago, but now I can buy it myself. Mr. Smith looked ashamed. It's our fault that we didn't find you earlier. Dad just wants to make it up to you, even if you had found me earlier. I might not have gone with you. After all, I'd been living very well these years. Since money couldn't sway me, they resorted to playing the emotional card. Mrs. Smith came to the Lincoln family every day to talk to my mother about my childhood. After all, she is my biological mother. Seeing that she cared about me, my mother treated her politely. Every time she saw me, Mrs. Smith would hold me and talk about her guilt. In my previous life, she didn't feel much guilt when I had such a hard time in the orphanage. After a month, I became much closer to her. She took the opportunity to suggest that she wanted to stay here for a while to develop a relationship with me. I arranged a guest room for her. Susan, isn't this mattress too hard? And the room isn't like morning sun either. The decoration isn't very nice. And the lighting, I smiled faintly. No, we've been living here just fine. One morning, I was about to go to work. Mom and Dad, I've made an appointment for you to have a medical checkup. Don't forget, Kathy will come to pick you up later. Got it, I remember. Seeing this, Mrs. Smith asked tentatively, Susan, I haven't been feeling well recently.
Can I go with you? I didn't even notice until she mentioned it. In my previous life, Mrs. Smith was quite glamorous. She had regular beauty treatments, wore jewelry all over her body, and never wore out-of-fashion clothes. She was very extravagant. The woman in front of me looked haggard, dressed simply in old styles from previous years, and didn't even wear any jewelry. Auntie, this medical checkup was booked in advance. How about you wait for the next time? She nodded helplessly. Okay. Next time was just empty talk. When I returned to the Smith family in my previous life, each of them said they wanted to make it up to me, and they talked a good talk. But in the end, it was all just empty words. They took Sarah on a trip. We'll take you next time. They thought my clothes from the street stalls were beneath their dignity. We'll take you shopping in a few days. You'll have everything that Sarah has. People in the circle were talking about my identity. We'll hold a party for you in a while to introduce your identity. Mrs. Smith took me to important occasions and rarely bought me a set of jewelry. Just because Sarah liked it, she gave it to her. I'll buy another set to compensate you. Not a single one of their promises was fulfilled. I can't even count how many empty promises I was given in my previous life. Just as I finished speaking, Kathy arrived. She greeted my parents. When Mrs. Smith saw her, her face turned ugly. Susan, who is she? As if I didn't notice, I introduced. This is Kathy, my best friend and a well-known brain specialist. She's going to work at the hospital and is dropping by to pick up my parents. Kathy greeted her politely as if she didn't recognize her. Mrs. Smith responded awkwardly and then went back to her room nervously. After work that day, I specifically went to a luxury store and bought the latest clothes and bags of the season. I also swept through a jewelry store. My mother has never liked such luxury goods. The things I bought for her before have just been gathering dust. However, I bought these things exactly according to Mrs. Smith's preferences. Mrs. Smith's eyes widened when she saw the packaging bags. Susan, why did you buy so many things? She greeted me with a bright smile. My mother sat on the sofa, took a look, and said helplessly, why did you buy these things again? I told you not to spend money recklessly and save it for yourself. I greeted Mrs. Smith and sat next to my mother. Bypassing her, I fobbed her off. Oh, Mom, these were all given to me by our business partners. They said it was a small token of their respect for you. Don't try to fool me. You must have spent a lot of money, right? After all, it was my thoughtfulness. My mother still opened each item and took a look. I don't have any occasion to carry these bags. I smiled faintly. Then you can carry them to buy groceries. You'd better keep these jewels for yourself. They're too luxurious and not suitable for me. Mrs. Smith interrupted in time. Oh, isn't this the new necklace from the L brand? It's not luxurious at all. It goes perfectly with an evening dress. She introduced these brands to my mother, and my mother listened attentively and showed her respect. Finally, Mrs. Smith said meaningfully, I used to like buying jewelry from their brand. That's just, my mother was about to say something. I interrupted her. Auntie, I didn't know what you liked, so I only bought things for my mom. I'll go shopping with you in a few days. Okay. Susan is so filial. She forced a smile, but her eyes were fixed on those shopping bags. My mother poked me embarrassedly and gave me a meaningful look. The meaning was that since my biological mother was here, I should show something and give her a gift. I pretended not to see it and took out a few more boxes. The things I bought earlier were just for show in front of Mrs. Smith. The things in front of me now were the ones I bought for my mother. She doesn't like diamonds but has a special love for jade and jadeite. When she opened the box, she was indeed surprised. Oh, This jade bracelet and these jadeite earrings have a good color. They're low-key and elegant. I asked someone to search for some good jade. I'll take you to pick some this weekend. I don't know much about these things and could easily be deceived, she joked. Okay, with my sharp eyes, I can guarantee that no one can deceive me. My mother and I chatted while unpacking the things, and Mrs. Smith sat aside looking on with a gloomy expression. That night, Mrs. Smith approached me privately. Susan, when are you going to take me for that medical checkup you mentioned last time? She asked. I frowned slightly. Auntie, I don't think there's anything wrong with your health. But I'm really not feeling well. I've never lived like this before. My face darkened. What do you mean, Auntie? If you think the conditions here are not good, then you can leave, she quickly explained. That's not what I meant. Maybe I'm just too tired these 2 days. How about you take me for a massage someday? And if possible, I'd also like to have a beauty treatment. I really don't have the time. Let's talk about it some other day. Mrs. Smith looked very aggrieved. You have time to pick out jewelry for your adoptive mother, but you don't have time to care about your biological mother. Enough, I said sharply. How can you be the same as my mom? She saved my life and raised me for so many years. Even after having my little brother, she still treated me as her own child, and you have never raised me for a single day. How can you compare with my adoptive parents? Mrs. Smith had never suffered such grievances before, after all. Mr. Smith didn't care about trivial matters, and she was always in charge at home. Her 3 children also always indulged her. She looked angry and her tone was filled with disdain. Aren't they just 2 teachers? They raised you, so you can give them a sum of money as a way to repay them, in case they rely on you for the rest of their lives. We are your blood relatives. I gave birth to you. I coldly shook her off. Then let me make it clear to you now, the Lincoln family is my home. And I only recognize them as my parents. If you can't respect my family, then there's no need for the Smith family to contact me anymore. Mrs. Smith looked as if she was heartbroken by me and left crying. Charles came. This was the first time I saw him in this life, and I almost didn't recognize him. He no longer had the arrogance of a young master from a noble family, nor the insolence he had when bullying others. When facing me, he was no longer haughty and arrogant. He was silent, dull, and timid. Charles graduated from junior college last year and, like in his previous life, had no special skills. The Smith family in this life couldn't afford to let him continue to be a prodigal young master. He is now Sarah's assistant. That's right, the young master of the Smith family is working as a lackey for the adopted daughter.
Mrs. Smith explained. Sarah said she wants him to be an assistant first to gain some experience, and when the time is right, she'll take him into the entertainment industry to become a star. The Franklin Family Group is a well-known entertainment company, and Sarah is now the young mistress of the Franklin family. It should be very easy for Charles to enter the entertainment industry. Why is he still an assistant? Unless Sarah doesn't intend to give him resources at all, it's okay to be a lackey. Wasn't this what he liked to do the most before? In a way, he's staying true to his original aspiration. I took the initiative to greet Charles. You're Charles, right? He looked up at me and said in a low voice, Sister. He had never called me sister in his previous life. Yeah, I smiled and responded, and then gave him the newly bought latest model of mobile phone. I heard you like playing games, and the configuration of this phone is just right for that. Seeing this, Mrs. Smith was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. Since our argument last time, our relationship had been very cold. Now she seemed to see a breakthrough. After all, real siblings get along well. Charles, get along well with your sister Susan. Charles took the phone embarrassedly. Thank you, sister. Lucas had just come home from school, and he was furious when he saw this. Susan, isn't that the phone you bought for me? Upon hearing this, Charles was at a loss. I nodded. It was for you, but Charles is here now, isn't he? Lucas shouted. Then you can take him to buy one next time. You promised to get me a new phone if I made progress in the exam. I've been taking tutoring classes for 3 months. 3 months? Are you heartless? My mother stopped him. Lucas, don't be rude. Charles is also your elder brother. Charles cowered and said, I'm sorry, I don't want it anymore. I stuffed the phone back into his hand. It's okay, just take it. You're my younger brother too. I patted Lucas on the head. I just met him. What's wrong with giving him a gift? Can't you give in to him? Hearing this, Charles's eyes lit up slightly. He seemed not to have expected that I would side with him. Humph. Lucas stormed upstairs. Charles was a bit worried. Sister, did I make him angry? I smiled faintly. It's not your fault. Open it and see if you like the phone. Charles, who hadn't felt any favoritism for a long time, happily opened the phone. Thank you, sister. After a while, Lucas ran downstairs. The anger on his face was gone, and he had a smile on his face again. He was holding a phone of the same model in his hand. Hee, sister, I knew you wouldn't be unkind. I rolled my eyes. You actually took my joke seriously. I knew Charles was coming, so I bought one more phone. I put it in his room in advance. At this moment, Charles looked at the phone in his hand, not knowing whether to take it or not, but in an instant, he realized that the favoritism he had just felt was just a joke between me and Lucas. During dinner in the evening, we talked about Lucas's grades. Mrs. Smith asked, Lucas is going to take the college entrance examination soon, right? How are his grades? My mother said, they're okay. He should be able to get into a key university, but he can't compare with Susan. She graduated from University J. When it came to grades, parents couldn't help but feel proud. Mrs. Smith said, really? Susan is so excellent. My eldest son also graduated from University J. You two are truly worthy of being siblings. Sarah's grades are also good, but she insisted on going abroad to study acting. Now she has become a big star. Charles, who hadn't been mentioned from beginning to end, lowered his head and couldn't taste his food. I secretly paid attention to him and picked a lot of his favorite dishes for him. He was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor and didn't even doubt why I knew his preferences. Charles was going to stay here for a few days. Mrs. Smith said she wanted us siblings to develop our relationship. After dinner, I played 2 rounds of games with Lucas. Playing games often leads to arguments. After losing, I was so angry that I started fighting with him. I had the upper hand. How did you play that round just now? You're blaming me. It was clearly your fault. Mrs. Smith asked my mother to stop us quickly. Oh, Susan is a girl. How can you bully her? My mother didn't care at all. Leave them alone. Whoever can't win will get beaten. Charles watched from the side and was very envious. In the Smith family, no one dared to say a harsh word to Sarah. Those who made Sarah cry would be punished by the whole family. This way of education is unreasonable. They could clearly love each child equally. But they chose to show their excessive love for one child by praising one and belittling the other. The whole family doted on Sarah. People don't worry about having too little but about unfair distribution. Favoritism will naturally cause dissatisfaction. Charles is the heir of the family, so he naturally doesn't mind spoiling his sister a little more. But what about Charles? In my previous life, I vaguely noticed his jealousy. But since Sarah was favored, he didn't dare to complain. Moreover, I was at the bottom of the pecking order and could serve as a cushion for him. This was another reason why he bullied me. He was jealous and afraid. I was better than him in many ways, and he was afraid that my status in the family would surpass his. So, using Sarah as an excuse, he suppressed and bullied me to enhance his sense of superiority. After playing with Lucas, I called Charles and went to the computer room on the 2nd floor. This was basically Lucas's exclusive territory. With a full set of electronic equipment, Lucas also collected a lot of game consoles that have been out of production. Although no one plays them now, he likes to study them, so I helped him collect some. When Charles came in, his face was filled with envy. I was all too familiar with this feeling. In my previous life, after staying in a guest room of the Smith family for a few days, when I saw Sarah's luxurious and spacious room, I felt the same way. Charles loves playing games. And this hasn't changed in both his previous life and this life. Lucas also liked playing games since he was a child. After my father found out, he didn't stop him, but he didn't indulge him either. Instead, he guided him to develop in the direction of game production. During the winter and summer vacations, I also found some courses for him and let him simply study computer science and software production. And Lucas was interested in it. He wrote a simple game program himself and also met some like-minded friends. Charles and Lucas played a few rounds together, and when they came out, they still seemed to want more. These days, whenever I had time, I took Charles out shopping and bought him things he liked. Mrs. Smith was happy to see this, noticing that his clothes were a bit old. I took him to buy new clothes. He said he envied the game consoles collected in Lucas's computer room. So I took him to buy the same ones. He liked Lucas's watch, and the next day I gave him one. In short, I wanted him to feel the kind of favoritism that Sarah received. At first, he didn't even dare to accept a mobile phone. Now, he saw that someone was willing to fulfill all his wishes unconditionally. Charles was both touched and scared, and gradually he opened up to me. He vaguely revealed to me that Sarah treated him very badly. I was surprised. How is that possible? Sarah is a simple and kind girl. Why are you speaking of her like that? When I said this, I kind of wanted to laugh, but I held it back. He said sullenly, "How do you know she's simple and kind?" I looked innocent. Aunt Smith said so, and I also like to follow celebrities occasionally. I quite like her dramas. That's all an illusion. She's very good at pretending. Even her persona in the entertainment industry is fake. Really? Charles lowered his head dejectedly and didn't explain further. He should have told his family many times and no longer held any hope. I continued to provoke him. Sarah might just have a bit of a temper. After all, she has been your sister for so many years. You can't maliciously speculate about her. He smiled bitterly. It would have been great if it was you who had lived with me all these years. The corners of my mouth curled into a smile, but my eyes were full of mockery. Charles's situation was most similar to mine in my previous life. But he had it much better than I did. When we got home, Mrs. Smith suddenly proposed that Charles leave. "Charles, you've been resting for so many days. Why don't you go and accompany your sister quickly? She's not convenient without you." Charles frowned. "I'm not going. She's an adult. Does she still need me to take care of her? What are you talking about? It's not safe for Sarah, a girl, in the entertainment industry. As her younger brother, you should protect her well." "Who's her younger brother? My real sister is here. She's just a wild child. Isn't it enough that she has enjoyed the benefits of our family for so many years?" Seeing them arguing, I held back my mother, who wanted to stop them. "We're all family. Let's talk things out properly." I pretended to mediate, but it didn't have any effect. Charles said, "Haven't you been showing favoritism for so many years?" Mrs. Smith said, "Why do you have to argue with Sarah? She has been sensible and excellent since she was a child. In what way can you compare with her? You still rely on the family to support you. In the future, if you want to enter the entertainment industry, won't you still need your sister's help?" Charles said, "I don't need her help." Years of suppression and dissatisfaction burst out at this moment, and Charles's voice was hysterical. "When we were kids, she could pick all the delicious and fun things first. As soon as she cried, you would scold me. In high school, it was clearly her who lied and said she was being bullied, so I helped her teach those people a lesson. In the end, you all blamed me and said I was bullying my classmates and embarrassing you. Later, you thought I was spending money recklessly, so you gave all my pocket money to Sarah. But from childhood to adulthood, she got everything she wanted, and you never said she was wasteful. You didn't let me study abroad with her. You were afraid that I would bully her abroad, but I've said it so many times that I never hit her. It was she who framed me. Why don't you believe me?" So, the reason Charles couldn't go abroad was actually this. Slap. Mrs. Smith slapped him. "Charles, that's your sister. She treats you so well. How can you be so vicious? I think you're just used to being idle and don't want to work for your sister." My mother awkwardly tried to persuade them a few times, but after all, it was their family matter, and she didn't want to interfere too much. I watched leisurely from the side. Not eating sunflower seeds was my last bit of respect. Charles pushed her away and rushed out of the door. My mother quickly went to comfort Mrs. Smith. "Don't be angry. It's normal for children to have conflicts. My two kids fight every day too." Mrs. Smith was so angry that she felt dizzy. "I raised 3 children. The eldest is mature and steady, and the daughter is cute and sensible. But this youngest son is good for nothing. I really doubt that it was him who was swapped with Susan back then. Otherwise, how could I have given birth to such a son? Tisk. Is it possible that it's a problem with their way of education?" Mrs. Smith was so angry that she felt dizzy and went back to her room to rest. My mother overheard the right and wrong of the Smith family and was completely confused. She sighed and shook her head while sitting there. "It's so messy. Their family is really a mess. Although you and Lucas also fight and play around, you don't have as much resentment as Charles." I hugged her and comforted her. "It's all thanks to you and Dad for teaching us well. Look how harmonious our family is." My mother looked at me again, and a trace of relief flashed in her eyes. "I can't say for sure who's right and who's wrong between those 2 children, but many times, conflicts between children are caused by parental favoritism." My mother stroked my head and said softly, "In the future, if your biological parents treat you unfairly for the sake of other children, tell us. Even if we have a falling out with them, we will never let you suffer such grievances." Hearing these words, my nose twitched, and I responded with a muffled All the things that happened in my previous life flashed before my eyes. If I had my parents back then, the Smith family would never have dared to bully me like that. Fortunately, this time, they are all still alive. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for making me the happiest child in the world. Charles ran away in anger. and as his sister, I had to show some concern for him. When I found him, I happened to see him kicking over a trash can by the roadside. Pick it up. He looked at me in surprise. Sister, why are you here? Pick it up, I repeated. He obediently did as I said and cowered. I didn't do it on purpose. I was just a bit angry. I softened my expression and said earnestly, anyway, Auntie is your mother. How can you treat her like this? There were tears in his eyes, and his voice was full of grievances. She's not my mother at all. She only has Sarah in her heart. Does your sister really bully you like that? Of course. He nodded heavily. I'm supposed to be her assistant, but actually, she uses me as a punching bag. Whenever she's unhappy on the set, she either beats or scolds me. If I resist, she starts acting, making everyone think that I'm the one bullying her. I had a speechless expression. You've suffered. Come back with me. Surprise flashed in his eyes. You believe me? I smiled faintly. Of course, you're my real younger brother. I found Mrs. Smith and asked her to let Charles stay for a while longer. She was somewhat reluctant, as if she was afraid that something would happen to Sarah if Charles was even a little late. Whether in my past life or this life, I've always admired her great maternal love for Sarah. She's different from the rest of the Smith family. Her love for Sarah is pure, without any ulterior motives or self-interest, simply stemming from their 20-year relationship. I had no choice but to call Mr. Smith, and then Charles was allowed to stay. Charles was very happy when he found out and trusted me, his sister, even more. However, in the following days, I started to distance myself from him. I had previously ordered a computer, which was originally meant for him. The style and color were all personally chosen by him. Finally, it arrived. He opened the computer, tried it out, and simply couldn't put it down. Charles, I hesitated, my tone full of reluctance. What's the matter, sister? The smile on his face hadn't faded yet. Well, Lucas has made a lot of progress in this monthly exam, and I want to give this computer to him first. His smile froze on his face. He's in his senior year of high school, and I just want to motivate him to study and get into a good university. You're older than him, so give in to him. I'll order a new one for you later. His expression improved a bit. Although reluctant, he still nodded. Okay, tell you what, since you want to enter the entertainment industry. The father of one of my classmates is a director. I'll ask him for you. Really? Charles beamed immediately. Thank you, sister, no problem. I patted him on the shoulder. I did know a director, but I didn't have the nerve to recommend a novice who could do nothing. I told Charles that I would take him to visit the director on the weekend. On that day, I left home early and didn't come back until the appointed time. Charles called me. Sister, where are you? At that moment, I was wandering around the campus of C University. Sorry, Charles, I forgot about your thing. I thought it was rare for Lucas not to have classes, so I brought him to C University to have a look and get to know his target university. This way, he'll have more motivation to study. Charles's tone was filled with disappointment. But you promised me. Lucas is in his senior year, and his matter is more urgent than yours. I'll take you next time. Again with next time. You clearly said that both Lucas and I are your younger brothers. Enough, he's younger. What are you arguing with him for? After that, I hung up the phone impatiently. Soon, Lucas came over, munching on a pancake. Sister, let's go to another school. The food in their cafeteria is terrible. My attitude made Charles feel panicked. He tried to talk to me several times, but I brushed him off impatiently, saying I was busy with work. One day, I finally took the initiative to find him. Charles, I'm free today. Come with me to buy something. After enduring the cold treatment for several days, he nodded eagerly when I took the initiative to talk to him. Sure, I drove him to a restaurant. Let's have dinner first. Coincidentally, a friend of mine is also here. Sister, is it your boyfriend? He tried to joke to ease the atmosphere. There was an unreadable look in my eyes. No, it's a girlfriend. In the private room, Kathy was already waiting. Charles, this is my friend, Kathy. Charles obviously didn't remember the person in front of him and greeted her warmly. Hello, Sister Chen, I'm Charles. Kathy sat still, didn't respond, and just looked at him coldly. Is this the younger brother you just found? Charles smiled. Did Sister mention me to you? Suddenly, Kathy stood up abruptly and slapped Charles in the face. She used all her strength, and a clear fingerprint appeared on Charles's face. He was stunned and looked at me for help. Sister, before he could finish, he got another slap. I couldn't keep pretending to be oblivious after Kathy's third slap. Kathy, what's wrong? Kathy asked. Charles, don't you remember me? He really didn't remember. Yes, he had bullied so many people. How could he remember each one? But what right did a bully have to forget? You may have forgotten, but I remember very clearly. You tore up my test papers, poured food over my head, spilled ink on my chair, and even had people drag me into an alley to beat me. With each word she said, Charles's face turned a shade paler. He might not remember Kathy, but he knew he had bullied many people. Charles panicked and grabbed my arm. Sister, it wasn't me. I shook him off coldly and walked over to Kathy, looking at him with disgust. Kathy is my friend. She wouldn't lie to me. He tried to grab Kathy again. I'm sorry, Kathy. I was naive before. I can compensate you. Please don't make my sister angry with me. Okay, get lost. In response, he got another slap. Seeing that the act was almost over, I said coldly, Charles, go back first. I want to talk to Kathy alone. Sister, get out. He left reluctantly. I closed the door of the private room and turned around to see Kathy leaning back in her chair. Cool, I smiled faintly. It's not over yet. I won't let him off. The real show was in the evening. When I got home, my parents were out, so I could act freely, looking at the trembling Charles. I said to Mrs. Smith, Auntie, let him leave. He's not welcome here anymore. Mrs. Smith was confused. Susan, what happened? Did this kid make you angry? Sister, Charles was on the verge of tears. Don't call me sister. You drove my best friend to the brink of suicide, and I'm sure Kathy isn't the only one. How many people have you bullied? As soon as these words came out, Mrs. Smith immediately understood everything. She grabbed Charles and started hitting him. You ungrateful brat, I told you to behave, but look at you. How could I have given birth to such a son, and you even bullied Susan's friend? After hitting him, Mrs. Smith looked at me nervously. Keep going. I smiled faintly, afraid that her hands would hurt. I kindly handed her a rolling pin. Use this to hit him. Mrs. Smith's expression froze, but she reluctantly swung the rolling pin at Charles. I stood by and watched, really wishing Kathy could be here to see this too. After she was done, Mrs. Smith said softly, Susan, your brother was indeed wrong. But those things are in the past. He was already expelled, and we compensated that girl with money. Charles has already been punished. After all, he's your own brother. You can't side with an outsider, can you? I said coldly. I don't care about blood relations. Compared to a friend I've known for years, a younger brother I just met recently means nothing. Moreover, he's clearly in the wrong. Just getting expelled so easily isn't enough for what he's done, is it? Can money really make up for the harm others have suffered? Charles, Kathy was the top scorer in the college entrance examination that year. Such an excellent girl happened to cross paths with you. A good, for nothing like you almost ruined the life of a genius. Charles knelt down in front of me, crying, Sister, I know I was wrong. It's all Sarah's fault. She deceived me. Enough. I slapped him. You're still lying. Kathy has already told me everything. You were the one who led people to beat her. What your mother said is right. You're a jerk, and now you're trying to slander your sister. Gradually, I shifted the topic to Sarah. I always thought Sarah was such a kind-hearted woman. How could she be as bad as you said? You even said she beats and scolds you. I think it's you who bullies her, right? Charles, do you just like hitting people? I was so good to you before. Are you going to hit me in the future too? Charles grabbed my leg and kept shaking his head. No, it's all Sarah's fault. Why does everyone believe her and not me? She's a sinister and vicious woman. He seemed to be in a trance, kneeling on the ground and muttering to himself. It's all her fault. If it weren't for Sarah, I wouldn't be like this. I wouldn't have been expelled. I would have gone abroad to study, entered the entertainment industry, and been praised and welcomed by everyone. It's all her fault. All her fault. Humph. I couldn't help but laugh. You're still shirking responsibility. Charles, you're disgusting. After all this, how could Mrs. Smith have the nerve to stay here? Auntie, I don't want to see Charles again. I'm going to send him away. My parents are too soft-hearted. And they probably won't be able to face you either. You'd better go back to the Smith family. That way, no one will be embarrassed. Susan, Mrs. Smith tried to plead. I didn't give her a chance and directly asked someone to pack her things. When my parents came back, I told them about Charles. Aunt Smith felt too embarrassed to stay and left with her son. My parents were furious after hearing this, not only because they felt sorry for Kathy. As teachers, they paid great attention to educational issues and hated school bullying even more. My father waved his hand. I think Susan should stay away from the Smith family. Their family values are corrupt, and the parents bear a lot of responsibility when their child makes a mistake. Instead of educating him properly, they rely on their wealth and power to cover it up and indulge him without limits. Don't other people's children matter? My mother looked puzzled. Charles seemed so honest and even a bit spineless. I can't believe he could do such a thing, I sneered. He wasn't spineless before. I had Sarah to thank for that. Evil people will eventually be punished by someone even worse. After Mrs. Smith and Charles left, it was time to deal with my biological father. Mr. Smith was a person who valued face and family interests extremely highly. In my previous life, he doted on Sarah. First, because Sarah was more in line with the image of a Smith family daughter. Second, because of Sarah's engagement to the young master of the Franklin family. As for me, a child who grew up in an orphanage, I only brought shame to Mr. Smith. At my first banquet, I was nervous and timid, and I was ridiculed. After the banquet, instead of comforting and educating me, he slapped me. You're an embarrassment. I don't have such a disgraceful daughter like you. So, he turned a blind eye to Mrs. Smith's favoritism and Charles's bullying. Later, when I worked in the Smith family group and showed my abilities, I gradually gained his attention and respect. He introduced me to his business partners and said proudly, "This is my daughter." By then, I wasn't moved by this false, fatherly love anymore. I wanted shares in the Smith family group. But he said to me, "Susan, know your place." I was just an employee working for him. When I wanted to leave the Smith family group, he didn't want to give up the benefits I brought him. He said, "If you can no longer create value for the Smith family, then you'd better get married and exchange yourself for benefits." Later, I messed up a project. Someone leaked the design drawings in advance, and the company suffered heavy losses. Mr. Smith knew very well that I wasn't the one who leaked the drawings, but he still shifted the blame onto me. "Susan, I only care about results and interests." I had my suspicions about who leaked the design drawings, but before I could find the evidence, I was kidnapped along with Sarah. I suspected that the person who framed me and the person who kidnapped me were the same. That person's target was only me. Kidnapping Sarah was just a distraction. After all, what kind of kidnapper forces the family to choose between two hostages? That's just crazy. Who would think getting an extra ransom is too much? The person who could get the design drawings of the Smith family group and kidnap both me and Sarah at the same time, and most importantly, had a conflict of interest with me. I couldn't think of anyone else except Charles and Charles. As for Charles, I doubted his abilities. Not long after Mrs. Smith left, Mr. Smith contacted me. In the restaurant, he looked serious. "The Smith family can cut off relations with Charles." "What?" I asked in surprise. He was serious. "I won't provide him with any more financial support. I won't stop you from doing whatever you want to him." Humph, I thought he came to plead for him. Well, this was more in line with Mr. Smith's character. "He's your own son," I said sarcastically. He smiled indifferently. "Susan, you're very smart. With just a few tricks, you've driven a wedge between Charles and Sarah. Do they still have feelings for each other?" I retorted. My phone pushed out entertainment news. Hashtag popular actress Sarah bullies newbies. Hashtag Sarah beats up her assistant. Hashtag Sarah causes another actress to be disfigured. Each piece of news was accompanied by pictures. And there were also several clear videos. There was no chance for her to whitewash herself. I didn't need to guess to know that Charles did it. It was worth all the efforts I made to provoke him. I looked at Mr. Smith. "You've always known about Charles's situation." I knew about all the unfair treatment he endured, and I knew about Sarah's bullying and beating. Just like in my previous life, he chose to turn a blind eye, Mr. Smith said coldly. "He just didn't live up to expectations." He didn't come here to talk about family affection today. From the moment I drove Mrs. Smith and the others out of the Lincoln family, he realized that talking about family affection with me was useless, so he didn't pretend to be a loving father anymore. "You're more outstanding than the three of them. Morning Sun has developed to such a scale in just 3 years. It has unlimited potential. If you hadn't been taken away by the nanny back then, I would have definitely trained you to be an excellent heir." "I don't believe it," I replied too quickly and bluntly, and Mr. Smith's expression faltered for a moment. He took out a new share transfer agreement. "Then I can promise you now." I didn't even look at it. "Mr. Smith, I'm not stupid. What does the Smith family group have left for me now? Young people should have a long-term vision. The Smith and Franklin families are collaborating on a project. Once this project is successful, the Smith family group can be revived," he said firmly. This cooperation was obviously facilitated by Sarah. What are the conditions? You're not going to give it to me for nothing, are you? I need $50 million in funds. How much? I was shocked, Mr. Smith. It wasn't easy for me to build my business from scratch. If I give you all my working capital, how can I run my company? He looked relaxed. There's nothing to worry about. Once the project is successful and the funds flow back, I'll return the money to you immediately. In the future, the entire Smith family group will be yours. Was he making empty promises again? I shook my head. I don't accept it. He was puzzled. This is a highly profitable cooperation. What's not to be satisfied with? I raised the corners of my mouth. It's not that I'm not satisfied. I just don't trust you. What if you cheat me? You, Mr. Smith was furious. I'm just kidding. I interrupted him quickly. I don't want to cooperate with you because I'm a good young person of socialism and firmly oppose all lawbreakers. At that moment, my phone rang, blocking Mr. Smith's rising anger again. I pointed at my phone. I know you're angry, but don't be. After answering the phone, he looked at me with a surprised and suspicious expression. Susan. Did you do this? I smiled faintly. No, you did. Soon, the news of the Smith family group's tax evasion will break out, and everyone will know that the successful Mr. Smith is just a hypocrite. Susan, he slammed the table angrily. I'm your father. My father is Bob. He taught me to abide by the law and be strict with myself. As for you, I glanced at him coldly. I don't have such a disgraceful father. I anonymously reported the Smith family group. And I was the one who gave the evidence to the tax authorities. I don't covet anything from the Smith family, but I also have no intention of leaving anything for them. Mr. Smith is selfish and cold-blooded. He doesn't care about family affection and can even abandon his own son. So, I'll destroy the career he's proud of and the face he values the most. Mr. Smith was going to jail. Sarah's scandals were still all over the internet, and Charles couldn't handle the situation at this critical moment. Charles, who was supposed to be the backbone of the Smith family now, went missing. The Franklin family group withdrew their investment and terminated the cooperation with the Smith family group. With so much tax debt, the Smith family could only turn to Sarah for help. Sarah didn't give them a warm welcome. Mrs. Smith and Charles even went to the Franklin family group building to make a scene. But they were finally driven out by the security guards. Mrs. Smith came to see me several times. But she was stopped at the door every time. When my parents heard about it, they just sighed and didn't get involved. My father even interrogated me carefully and told me, a gentleman loves wealth, but he should obtain it in a proper way. I said helplessly, Dad, I pay my taxes. With things in such a mess, I thought Charles would come to me. After all, with Mr. Smith gone, he was the one in charge of the Smith family. But I met Sarah first. Sarah, the one who had stolen my identity since birth and was the source of all my suffering in the past 20-odd years in my previous life. It was only now that I finally saw her. I had taken revenge on Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, Charles, and the Smith family company, but I had never laid a hand on her. Even the current scandals about her were caused by Charles. Although I had deliberately incited him, did I not hate her? Of course I did, but more than her, I hated those who were related to me by blood. In my previous life, during the 16 years when I was replaced by Sarah, even though I resented it, there was nothing I could do. After returning to the Smith family, at first, Sarah just had some petty schemes. She was testing the attitude of the Smith family members. It was their step-by-step indulgence that gave Sarah the courage to hurt me. All she had to do was cry, and my own family would blame me, scold me, and hit me. Whenever she told a lie, all my relatives would believe her. It wasn't difficult for them to investigate the truth, but they all decided that I was at fault. If they had loved me enough, perhaps I wouldn't have gone through all that suffering. Sarah was just the one who handed them the knife, and those so-called relatives would cut off my flesh piece by piece. I hated Sarah, but I hated them 1,000, 10,000 times more. Are you Susan? Sarah was dressed to the nines, her eyes full of arrogance and disdain. Yes, it's me, she sneered coldly. You're nothing special. Big Brother said you were amazing. I've investigated your company. Compared to a big enterprise like the Franklin family that has been developing for decades, it's still far behind. I smiled faintly. You might as well just say I'm not as good as you, that I'll never be able to compare to you. She nodded. That's the truth. I scoffed. What gives you the confidence to say that? Because of all the scandals surrounding you, I have the Franklin family as my backing. Why should I be afraid of not having resources? And even if I quit being an actress, I can still go back and continue being a wealthy socialite. Susan, you have no idea how much I hate you. Her eyes were venomous. Hate me? I was confused. Although you took my place, I never thought of taking it back. Why do you hate me? She sneered. Why are you the real daughter of the Smith family while I'm doomed to be the fake one? Why wasn't I born into the Smith family, since I was 16? I've lived in fear every day, afraid that you'd come back one day, even after Mom and Dad found out the truth. Although they said they'd still treat me like their biological daughter, they've always had you on their minds. I was too lazy to argue with her. A greedy person like her would never be satisfied, no matter how much she got. Is it my fault? I deliberately provoked her. I'm lucky. Who told you to be born to the nanny? Who told you not to keep your identity a secret? Who told them to remember me? You. She turned pale with anger. Even if you reclaim your place in the Smith family now, you're still out of luck. If you had come back a few years earlier, you could have been a young miss. Now that the Smith family has nothing left, I'm still the young mistress of the Franklin family. Is this why you helped your husband's family screw over your own? I retorted, stealing the Smith family group's secrets, intercepting their projects, poaching their senior executives, and paving the way for Bruce step by step. You really do love him. Sarah panicked. I don't know what you're talking about. I remained calm. Since I know about these things, it means I have evidence. She was stunned for a long time,
then regained her composure. So what if you know? I just wanted to destroy the Smith family before you came back. Even if you're the real daughter, you won't get anything. I shrugged. Whatever. It's not my interests at stake anyway. She frowned. What do you mean? You don't plan to go back to the Smith family? Did she think I was going back to be a down and out young miss? So she came here to show off. I didn't answer her anymore. I saved the recording and got up to leave. In this life, I had no plans to do anything to Sarah. I preferred to watch her reap what she sowed. Ever since I reunited with the Smith family, I had been having people secretly keep an eye on their movements. Now that such a huge thing had happened to the Smith family, but Charles still hadn't come to me. Something was off. I couldn't find out where he was. You should stay in the dormitory for a while, I said to Lucas. Why? Boarders have evening self-study. You can do more test papers. I can study just as well at home. Just do as I say. I don't want to. The dormitory isn't comfortable to sleep in. I gave him a look. Sleep? You're a senior in high school. Don't you know that? How can you sleep at your age? Lucas said. Susan, don't tell me you want to send me away so you can inherit the 3 acres of land back home all by yourself. I said. I'll give you money. He smiled obsequiously and bowed. Yes, Miss Lynn. After sending Lucas away, I asked my parents for leave and arranged for someone to send them on a trip to M Country to relax. They were reluctant at first. I said, I'm going on a business trip to discuss a project. If the Smith family comes looking for you, how will you face them? My parents didn't like that family, but because of my blood relationship with them, they didn't want to make things too ugly, so it was better to avoid them. I couldn't possibly tell them that I had been reborn. It was too fantastical. And they would never believe it. I arranged bodyguards near the school and around my parents. Remembering the kidnapping in my previous life, I could almost still feel the weightlessness of falling off a cliff and the pain of broken bones. With the Lincoln family villa empty, someone had to live in it. I brought Mrs. Smith and Charles back. In the living room, Charles cowered in the corner, obviously still afraid to face me. Mrs. Smith looked haggard, with tear-stained cheeks. Susan, please help your father. We've even mortgaged the ancestral house, but we still can't raise enough money. I ignored her sobbing and directly asked, Where's Charles? Mrs. Smith said, Your eldest brother has also gone to try to raise money. Where? I asked impatiently. I'm not sure. He said he's going abroad to see a friend. Abroad? When? Just 3 days ago. My heart skipped a beat. That was also when my parents went abroad. I composed myself. What exactly happened? Isn't Sarah the apple of your eye? She's so kind. Why wouldn't she help you? Don't mention her. An adopted child just can't be truly affectionate. We raised her in luxury and prepared such a generous dowry for her, but she won't even lend us this money. I pretended to be indignant. Although I'm not close to you, since Sarah has enjoyed the resources of the Smith family, she should take on the responsibility for me. How could she treat you like this? Charles angrily said to Mrs. Smith. How many times have I told you, she's a vicious woman, but you wouldn't listen, Mrs. Smith said. It's too late to talk about it now. She took my hand, as if grasping at the last straw. Susan, please help us. As long as the Smith family gets through this crisis, we will definitely make it up to you. We can still build our relationship. I reluctantly pulled my hand away. I want to help, but I don't have that much money. The Lincoln family isn't a wealthy clan, and my company is still new. How could I have saved up so much money? What should we do then? Charles said sullenly. Don't drag my sister into this. It serves you right for trusting Sarah so much. Sarah came to see me once. I took out the recording from last time. I never thought she would harm the Smith family like this. The recording of my conversation with Sarah played. I trimmed my part of the conversation a bit. Sarah admitted that she had been pushing the Smith family group towards destruction step by step for Bruce. Mrs. Smith was devastated. Charles looked extremely malicious. I'm going to kill that bitch. Enough, I interrupted them. You can't even see her now. Don't overestimate yourselves. I sighed. I'll figure something out. The Smith family's villa and ancestral house had been mortgaged. I told them to stay here and feel at ease. Charles looked at me gratefully. As if I was still his kind sister, Mrs. Smith seemed to have found spiritual support and stayed at my place, waiting for me to solve everything. One day, I received a strange phone call. I heard you've been looking for me. His voice was no longer warm, it was low and sinister. Damn it, he really knew how to hide. I was silent for a long time, then murmured, Charles, sister, you always seem to be doing well, always. What do you mean? My throat tightened. He chuckled. You were reborn too. Weren't you? I took a deep breath. Where are you, even now? He still didn't want to show himself. Country M. What? You kidnapped me in the last life. Are you going to go after my parents this time? Ha! If I kidnap you this time, who will help me raise the money? What will you do with the money? The Smith family group is already finished. Kidnapping is illegal, and you won't be able to make a comeback even if you come back. He sneered a few times. Who said I'm going back? I understood. You're just like your father. No wonder he chose you as his heir. I was speechless. Charles, why did you hurt me in the last life? I was already so miserable in the last life. What had I done to deserve it? Just when I was about to have enough ability to break away from the Smith family and start my own business, he killed me. Susan, I hate that indifferent attitude of yours the most. He gritted his teeth. This sounded familiar. It seemed like everyone in the Smith family had said something similar to me. Why couldn't you be like Sarah and be a little princess, or be a good, for nothing like Charles? I could have been a good brother and protected you just like I protected them. The Smith family's money would have been enough for you to squander, but you had to compete with me. You wanted to replace me in the Smith family group. You could solve the projects that I couldn't handle so easily. I was so jealous of you. Even father was paying more and more attention to you. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. I suddenly burst out laughing until my eyes were hot with tears, thinking about what I had been through in my previous life. Sarah was jealous that I was the real daughter, but in fact, the Smith family only loved her.
The fake one. Charles was jealous of my good grades, but in fact, he could still be a young master even though he was good for nothing. Charles was jealous that I was valued by Mr. Smith, but in fact, his father only saw me as a pawn. I had been living a much more miserable life than any of them, but they were all jealous of me. They had to push me into the mud. Charles said, I want 100 million. Transfer it to this overseas account within 5 days, or you'll never see your parents again. After all, I don't think you want to lose your family twice. He was even greedier than his father. Where am I supposed to get that much money? Did he really think I ran a bank? If you don't have enough money, sell the house and stocks. If that's still not enough, you have company shares, don't you? His tone was infuriating. I sneered. Charles, when did I say my parents went to Country M? You did trick me. But I didn't say I found them in Country M. If you want them to stay alive, send the money on time. Charles hung up the phone. I quickly checked on my parents and Lucas. I only relaxed when I knew they were safe. When I got back to the Lincoln family villa, Mrs. Smith and Charles were gone. The house was in a mess, and the bodyguards were injured. The police had already arrived. The kidnappers were Charles's men, but he was abroad. They caught the people, but they didn't even make a video call to confirm. I sent the recording of the call to the police and told them about his extortion. Although the police had a hard time understanding what was going on with this family, the fact was that the mastermind behind the kidnapping was surnamed Smith, and the victims were also surnamed Smith. I explained, after all, they're a wealthy family, you know how it is. A few days ago, I did send my parents to the airport, but they didn't get on the plane, let alone go abroad. Charles went abroad but came back empty-handed, and that was exactly when I brought Mrs. Smith and Charles over. It was all just a misunderstanding. So, where were my parents? They were back home farming. After my grandparents passed away, the 3 acres of land at home had been left untended. On the 5th day, I received a strange phone call. After answering it, I first heard the cries for help from Mrs. Smith and Charles. Mrs. Smith's voice was hoarse from crying. "Susan, Mom knows she was wrong. Mom is sorry for you." My hand tightened slightly. Was she remembering it too? "Sister, it's not that we didn't want to save you. It's all Sarah's fault. A strange male voice interrupted their cries. "Miss Susan, have you raised enough money?" My mind was still immersed in what Mrs. Smith and the others had said, and I didn't react. It's better if they remember. Only then can I take revenge on them with a clear conscience. Why was I the only one who remembered all those grievances? "Hello? Are you dead? Fucking answer me." My throat was dry, and I said in a low voice, "I want to say something to them." There was a moment of silence on the other end. "Susan, it's Mom. Please save me." "Auntie," I interrupted her. "My parents are also missing. I can't just leave them alone." "Susan, Sarah has also been kidnapped. We can't not save her. Don't blame me, don't blame us." The crying on the other side stopped abruptly. I hung up the phone decisively, even though Sarah had hurt me. It was never her who made me feel wronged. After all, Sarah was an outsider, but they were all my relatives. I sent the recording of this phone call to the police and cooperated with their investigation. I didn't care whether they would be in trouble or not, but I should always help the police solve the case. Charles was arrested and brought back to the country, and he went to join his father in prison. After all, he was her own son, and Mrs. Smith originally didn't want to pursue the matter. But Charles didn't agree. Under Charles's continuous revelations, Sarah withdrew from the entertainment industry. The 3 children raised by the Smith family eventually turned against each other and fought among themselves. How could favoritism not lead to resentment? In this life, I never took action against Sarah. First, because I was too busy dealing with the other members of the Smith family. Second, because she was too stupid, although I hated the Smith family. I had to admit that the Smith family was indeed Sarah's most powerful backing. Now that the Smith family has fallen, I wonder if the Franklin family will still want a disgraced young mistress. As for Bruce, what kind of decent person would desperately try to bring down their father-in-law's family? It was Charles who did it. He was a madman in his previous life, and the resentment accumulated over 2 lifetimes was enough to take Sarah's life. Bruce sent him to prison and firmly demanded justice for his late wife, which really earned him a good reputation. Mrs. Smith came to see me several times but found that we had already moved. What happens to her in the future has nothing to do with me. "Sister, come and blow out the candles quickly." Lucas had just received his admission notice and was holding a celebration party for his further education, in the face of the congratulations from relatives and friends. Mom said modest words but couldn't stop smiling. Dad was drunk. He put one arm around me and the other around Lucas. "I've taught so many excellent students, but the ones I'm most proud of are still my 2 children. Come on." His second uncle, "Open another bottle," Lucas complained. "I still ended up going to see university. The food there is so..." "Sister, how about you donate a cafeteria to the school?" I gave him a speechless look. Get lost. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.